Okay. So I started reading this one first just because I thought it'd be an easier read, and it has been so far. I just want to give a quick commentary. I'm about halfway through. I'm on page 69. Oh boy, this book would not be popular today, I can tell you that. My immediate thoughts was it does feel like kind of a book version of Murder, She Wrote with Angela Lansbury playing Jessica Fletcher. This book came out in 89, so that was been the 4th or 5th season of Murder, She Wrote. I grew up watching that series, loved that series. But basically, if you take one of those episodes and distill it down to a more childish dialogue and truncated story, the POV, I say it wouldn't be popular today just because I know a lot of people complain about head hopping, and it does that a lot. Except it's third person, so you're not really head hopping, but you kind of are. So, for example, on the first page, we're in somebody's head and it's talk about she walked to Claire's desk as if she belonged there. Blah, 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 blah. Skip to the second page. Carefully, she lifted the 3 sets of paper clip stories and laid hers on top of the remaining pile, then dropped the others back in place. No one would notice what she was doing. No one would question her. Perspiration dotted her upper lip, and her stomach balled into an icy knot. The fragrance of the long-stemmed red rose next to the pile of manuscripts sickened her, and she turned away. Carla wouldn't notice the extra story until this weekend at home when she was reading the others. It goes on a little bit, and then all of a sudden, we're in Clara. Clara gripped her hairbrush tighter and blinked back, stinging tears as she sagged against the bathroom sink. I must not think about Mark, she whispered brokenly. I must enjoy this Christmas season. A tear slipped down her pale cheek. Oh, Mark. Finally, she pulled herself up, forced back the agony, and carefully touched up her blush and lip gloss, so on and so forth. Okay, so in the first chapter, it's third person, but it's third person from the perspective of the killer. And then without a paragraph break or something to really, all the pages are like this, they kind of run together. And so suddenly it's still third person, but it's Clara's perspective, third person. And the gist of the story is Clara's an editor for a women's magazine. She used to be editor in another part of Michigan State, and her fiance died in a car crash. And at this point, Clara believes it was an accident, but come find out, it was actually because somebody was trying to kill Clara and accidentally killed her fiance instead. So now the killer is going to try to kill her again. And it's a Christmas time story, which, I guess it's fitting since it's December, but I had not even considered that when I picked out this book. So it switches back and forth. In this first chapter, we go from the murderer's perspective to Clara's perspective for quite a bit of this. And then Peg, who is one of Clara's employees or co-worker in the office, and Peg's cousin Amber, who is our actual titular detective, Amber Ainslie. And Amber has some of her own personal stuff going on, but she was asked to look into Mark's death, the killed fiance, by one of his family members. And so she lied to her cousin Peg about just coming for a visit and is using her. And anyway, all three of the female characters, they kind of, I wouldn't say they're all the exact same, but they're all beautiful. I'd forgotten about that was one thing even as a kid that annoyed me. It's like everybody had to be like supermodels, it seemed like, and books even. It's like, we get that in magazines, and then we're going to get that in the books too. Everybody's described like they're supermodels. Like Peg and Amber actually have bits of dialogue back and forth about, oh, you should be a model, you should be a model, I love my career, I love my career, and it's like, okay, whatever. And I think it's interesting, like Hilda Stahl being a Christian author, she deals with the perspective of, wanting to get married and having kids, but also wanting to have a career. And like, on one hand, she's supportive of that, but she also does have her characters kind of, struggling with maintaining that balance or wanting to put themselves out there to have that balance. Like, I have a career right now, I'm just going to focus on my career. So, I don't know, but a lot of the dialogue it's pretty childish. I mean, not all of it, but quite a bit of it still comes off as childish. So that's like, it's disappointing. I was hoping for better, but I also think this was like Hilda Stahl's first adultish book, and she had read or had been writing a lot of like middle grader kind of books, or like books for 10-year-olds. So I'm hoping that the style gets better, particularly in the Amber Ainslie series, because I really don't remember the Amber Ainslie series being quite that bad with the dialogue. I thought it was a little better than that. And also the one mystery in this book series that I remember reading, I'm positive it stayed with one female character, even though it was third person throughout. And so maybe she only does that kind of head hopping third person in this book because she's still figuring out style and perspective and everything for the series. I don't know. I don't know. I'll probably finish this either tonight or tomorrow morning. It's already pretty late. It's also kind of interesting with all like the place dropping and things like that, because when I first read this book series in particular, I still lived in Washington State. Now I live in Michigan, so it's like I know some of these places that they're mentioning, so that's interesting. And I think that was one thing I liked about some of Hilda Stahl's books, is like all of them took place in like a different state, and I think that was because Hilda Stahl herself had lived in multiple states. And since I myself, my family comes from Kentucky, but I was born in California and grew up in Washington, then like I kind of understood that multiple state background, and just like having an interest in other places in the US. So anyway, just like I'm kind of disappointed in this book. I'm pretty sure I already know who the murderer is, despite Stahl's attempt at red herrings. They just seem like too blatantly red herrings, and so it's like it's the one person that you're not giving a lot of screen time to, obviously. Anyway, all right, see you later.